Hey, good morning. This is Dr. Bill Williams coming live to you from Atlanta, Georgia with the Influencers Podcast. I'm real privileged today to have Phil Irvin. He's from California, of course. And this is e-commerce and growth marketing at MOJO. So we want to know what MOJO is, and we want to know what Phil does with MOJO. Tell us all about it. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. And Dr. Bill, thank you for having me here on the podcast. Bright and early here on the West Coast, but luckily I'm a morning person. But yeah, essentially Mojo is we like to describe ourselves as a digital operating partner for all types of brands. We have a big focus on creative, digital, UI, UX, so user experiences in the digital world. But I recently joined to accelerate our e-commerce practice and also growth marketing, helping a lot of brands of all sizes really with their growth acceleration in this new post-COVID world. So, we're very data driven, but we like to combine a core skill set of using data, but with really expert creatives to optimize experiences that our clients provide to their customers for growth. So,
Sounds good. You're putting data together with good creatives. So it's a compelling story, right?
oh, definitely, definitely, because I think a lot of people either have a bias towards one or the other on that spectrum, but really, it's a marriage between the two that helps brands separate themselves from competition.
Tell us who's Mojo? Where did they come from, and what are they actually comprised of? What kind of size company is it?
Yeah, so we're still fairly small. So it's an interesting story. The two co-founders, one is a really good friend of mine from Notre Dame. His name is Darnell Smith. He conceptualized the idea. He had a lot of experience in the agency world, in management consulting, and he wanted to break off and do his own thing. This was in the late 2000s. And it's interesting, his wife, who he met while he was formulating the company, she's now the CEO of the firm. So they both run it together. And they started out really, honestly, from a blank slate, and they threw all the darts at the dartboard. They had, management consulting deals, creative deals. They bought in a partner that had a creative production shop. So that's where that expertise came from. But honestly, leveraging their contacts, they've able to spin up a lot of engagements of all sizes, everything from acting as fractional chief marketing officers to helping organizations with technology decision making. And I was incidentally, I used to work at Allergan in their medical aesthetics area. And Mojo, I was actually one of their first clients about 10 to 12 years ago. So I bought them in to do an assessment of a loyalty program that I was running. And now fast forward, 12, 13 years later, I'm now a partner at Mojo and helping them to continue on their acceleration and growth. So it's kind of funny how it came kind of full circle where I was a client originally, and now I'm part of the organization here. So.
Well, you understand it from the ground up, and you know what their strengths are, and you can really talk well to that. Not everybody starts off with a boom. Tell us a great failure story that happened that you're aware of, and how did you learn and overcome to recover from that failure?
Yeah, I love to, it's funny because this was very traumatizing at the time, but I love to talk about this. But so I received my MBA from UCLA Anderson in 2009. I had a great career before my MBA in technology. I got my grad degree to make a shift into marketing, general management, and I got into a really strong MBA leadership program at Experian within their credit services division. And so there's a lot of companies that have these types of programs. You do rotations in different functional areas. And I think the problem that I had with how I approached that was I was always thinking about my next move because I wasn't happy with some of the roles that I was given when I was at Experian in this rotational program. And so by the time I finished the three rotations, I actually didn't have a landing spot. I couldn't find a home and got laid off. And I was really at a loss where to take my career. But Luckily, I ended up going to a different division of Experian in their marketing services group. They owned an email platform called Cheetah Mail, and came in there, did some technology work, but then transitioned into account management. And that was my first foray into the digital space and digital marketing. And honestly, that failure and that impasse in my career led to this new career path that I've been on, which has only shot up over the years. So
Sounds to me very fortuitous that you actually moved around. You saw a lot. You had a great background education, but also experientially. Uh, as you move forward, what motivates you to keep going?
yeah, a lot of different things. I think, one piece of advice that I heard from one of the alums from UCLA Anderson is the way to progress and stay happy is to not be comfortable within your career. And I think I'm involved in a lot with athletics, and I constantly have this mindset of taking on new challenges to continue learning, continuing to grow. And I think, obviously, at some point, you want to have some control over what you're overseeing, whether it's work, family, or your health. Those are the three areas that I like to think about balancing with my lifestyle. But I think always seeking out either new opportunities or ways to expand your skill set or your impact over your peers or clients or internal coworkers is really what truly motivates me. If I get too comfortable, I get bored, and I feel like I'm not as an effective as a team member, as a husband, as whatever. So
You tended to speak of things that resonate with a lot of people. When you get bored, you get complacent. You you don't perform as well. Are there other things that people do that cause them to fail in life that you've seen?
yeah, I mean, I think those two things, becoming complacent is one. I think, especially as people age, I think not seeking out opportunities to learn, or shutting out alternative opinions to your mode of thought. And I know, not to get too much into politics, I know over the past maybe 4 to 8 years, there's been a lot of divisiveness on party lines with opinions, and I feel like the country's starting to get to a better spot where you're willing to listen to the other side with that. But I think that's another reason people fail when they're resistant to outside opinions. But I think also, another point I wanted to make too was not using your strengths to help you communicate with impact. I think with some people, whether it's imposter syndrome or a lack of confidence, I think it's not realizing strengths that you have to help you with your acceleration, whether it's your career or in just general pursuit of happiness and pursuing activities that fulfill you, instead of dwelling on the negatives, leaning into the positives and strengths that you have.
I think everybody that comes along has the imposter syndrome. And one thing you need to get over that, a coach. You need somebody in your corner that's going to promote you and bring out your best qualities. So if you don't have a coach, I've always had a coach, for most of my career, I've had mentors and coaches. I firmly believe in those. What's your company motto at MOJO?
Yeah, I hope I don't butcher this and get in trouble, because actually I don't know if we have a exact mission statement, but just knowing these guys and having worked with them for 15 years, I think it's always doing work with excellence, being data driven, thinking outside the box, but then also working in it with a culture of being inclusive in terms of not just the types of people that we work with, but also the ability to listen to different ideas and perspectives before coming to a decision and having points of view with how a company should grow, whether it's growth or changing a creative or being better operationally. I think it's really those tenets is how MOJO operates, and why I'm a big fan of the work that these guys do, and why, ultimately why I joined the company. So.
Excellent. What about the 3 success secrets that people can model from? Can you identify 3 things?
Yeah, I think, I've touched on some of these already, but I think I can't emphasize enough continuous learning. Actually, I even heard this from Mark Cuban, the famous Shark Tank investor, owner of the Dallas Mavericks. Even for somebody with that much success, he even emphasizes that he continues to learn to help him with his growth. So I think that's number one. I think, I've touched on being a good listener, but I think being a good listener when you're talking with others that have alternative opinions. But a big thing, I think that's maybe not as cliche, is being respectful of people's time. I think especially when you're early in your career, you're green, you just don't have as much experience, and you're constantly having to tap into people with more experience. I think it's always good to ask questions and seek out advice, but I actually do, there's a cliche statement, there's never a bad question, but I think the reverse. I think there are bad questions. So I think being thoughtful of what you're asking to mentors or peers when you're trying to seek out information is really something that I've learned with my career, has helped me with my career path. And then I think communicating with impact. I think the ability to capture somebody's attention in a quick manner, but also developing skills to become a good storyteller, relating to where they're coming from, positioning your idea in a way that's going to resonate with your audience is a huge thing to have success, whether it's in work, personal life, or health. Let's touch on it again. So.
Hey, circling back to the question of failure, there's some big failures in marketing going on right now. And how would you counsel your company on avoiding the danger of being a bit too woke?
No, I love that you bring that word up, because it's used just so flailingly now. But I think not to harp on this again, but I think a lot of my work that I'm doing right now is with small to medium-sized companies. So they're hyper focused on, having linear paths to growth. But I think the reality is that you're going to have failures along the way to becoming a successful company and entity. So I think constantly having a test and learn mindset. And I may not get the 3 reasons here, but I think the number one thing that I see is that a lot of brands, when they see whether it's a creative test or trying to spend money in a new channel, if they see negative results in a short amount of time, like, companies would just kill that idea and not revisit it. And I think the way that I like to think is there's always a way to find success. There's just always alternative ways to find success for growth. So, I mean, to give one example, so Instagram and TikTok, a lot of people are trying to figure out how to advertise there to generate revenue. And a lot of times brands would just kill those efforts if they don't see success. But, what videos are you showing? What's your messaging? What's your offer that you're positioning? What audiences are you targeting? There's so many factors that go into running a successful campaign that I think a lot of times brands would just kill ideas if they don't see success, as opposed to rethinking which one of those levers you can tweak or change to find a path to success. So in my opinion, that's number one. Number two is the other thing I'll just touch on is I think people and staffing. I think a lot of brands, they think they can grow with minimal resources and expertise, but I do think there needs to be a balance there, because there's just there's a lot of times a lot of founders and heads of operations think they can wear like tons of hats, but you got to recognize at some point where you need to bring in outside expertise to help you grow and become more efficient.
It's a deep subject, no doubt about that right now. Who's your ideal client?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, because The thing is, I'm new to the organization and I'm trying to grow my book of business. So honestly, any client that'll talk to me and agree to an engagement is an ideal client for me right now. But I do think, if I had to put some parameters around it, I'd say at least 5 million in yearly revenue, an interest in quick growth in the online space, but also, potentially having an interest in branching out into retail, brick and mortar. I think somebody that's open to a new mode of thinking, alternative opinions, and then I would also say clients that aren't sufficiently staffed to support complexity with marketing, e-commerce, and operations, and I'll throw in analytics there. I think people that can recognize that they need this outside perspective and outside help is also would make them ideal.
So if you're looking for the $5 million client, how do you find those guys?
Yeah, what's been interesting. I've been in this role for 3 months, and I thought going into this, I'd have to focus a lot of time on cold calls or LinkedIn outreach and posts. But I think the best path that I've been finding, and I'm fortunate just because of all the connections that I've made through my 15 plus years in marketing and digital, is really referrals from people within my network and just providing awareness of all the great work that MOJO has done and the services that we provide. And then what I've been finding is, as I've been educating these people about the work we do, they've actually been providing leads to myself to pursue and actually go seek out business. So, obviously, the heavy lifting is on my end to take those conversations and take them from just conversations to actual deals. But I think, and I think this is where I need to grow too, is how to better tap into my network to find where those opportunities lie that align with the ideal client that I mentioned. Right now I'm taking a spray and pray approach. I'm just talking to every lead that comes my way. But over time, I want to get a better focus to have more efficient conversations.
So you're bringing a new market to MOJO with e-commerce. You're going online, and why should somebody buy from you, particularly MOJO?
Yeah, I think so. From my experience in this space, there's a lot of great, I'll just call them agencies or consulting companies, that you have a lot that are either great at media buying, great at analytics, or great on the creative side, UI, UX. From my experience working at large holding companies to smaller brand startups, I believe we bring a unique perspective on combining all of those disciplines and also being nimble to work with small, medium-sized companies, but also enterprise companies as well. We've worked with Prudential, Procter and Gamble. We've worked with other extremely large entities, but then we've also worked with brands in the 10 to $15 million range. And so I think that the combination of the creative expertise from the staffing that we have, plus my expertise coming in my extended network, the merging of all of that together is what separates us from other entities that are trying to play in this space.
So you have a history of playing with the big guys, and so you have a history of success. What are your well-defined products or services that you offer?
Yeah, so MOJO actually has an official creative production shop and a studio. So we actually run a studio out of our office in Cincinnati, Ohio. So I hopefully we can send a follow-up to the listeners here, but we have an actual sizzle reel of all of everything from static ads, media, videos, animations. We actually have a separate design group from an animation and motion group. So I'd say that's one of our core strengths. But one of our co-founders, current CEO, she comes from a management consulting background. I'd say being able to partner with the C-suite of companies and providing strategic advisory from that perspective, That's where we've gained a lot of traction over the years. And then also from a technology perspective, one of our partners leads our marketing technology practice and working with clients to understand how to make the best investment decisions with marketing technology, advertising technology, and then tools like digital asset management tools to help manage creative and creative process, I'd say is the other, big strength that we have. And then I don't want to, shed lightly on what I'm bringing to the table, but I would say e-commerce and growth, simply because it's new, I would put, at the tail end of that, but that's the other, area that we're excelling at right now.
So do y'all partner pretty much with the CMO of major companies and just add expertise on top of what they already have? Is that kind of what you do?
Yeah, I would say CMOs and also CEOs as well too. So we'll partner with them. And I think that, a lot of the big major consulting companies like McKinsey, BCG, and Bain, historically, they've been known to kind of own that space. But I think where we kind of come in is we're so much more flexible. We're not going to charge as high of fees, but then we actually have the resources and the networks in place to help them realize not just long-term aspirations, but also quick wins as well too, to help them right size their business and get them on a better path in the short term. I think that's, one of the differentiators that we have with some of the incumbents in the advisory space. So
now, I hate to say it this way, but you'll get it when I say it. So, the last podcast guy I talked to was a wine guy, and I asked him how he crushed the competition. I mean, his grapes versus other grapes, How do you crush your competition?
Yeah, so I love the question. For your audience, I have a background in athletics. I played baseball, basketball, football in high school, played a little bit of baseball in college. So I love competition and love thinking through that lens. I'm actually going to pivot. So MOJO, for some more context, actually has equity stakes and helped launch 2 non-alcoholic beverage brands. One is called Bear, spelled BARE. One is called Moon. It's actually spelled MXXN. And I think staying on the topic of, spirits and beverages, Moon is a very, very interesting one. It's a non-alcoholic spirit. It actually has THC. So it has a little bit of a hemp flavor in the formulation, or there's a cannabis infused and a hemp infused formulation. And I have a very hands-on role with both. I'm the acting head of e-commerce to help accelerate sales directly to consumers. And with Moon specifically, we've seen a lot of immediate success. I'm biased, but the quality of our product is far superior to other non-alcoholic spirits in the space. I won't call out competitors specifically, but we're getting just the feedback we're getting from our initial set of customers, the response rates we're seeing with paid advertising on social media. We're seeing so much great feedback, and we've been able to grow from 0 to, we might hit 6 figures in the next 5 to 6 months in terms of direct to consumer sales. So I think it's a combo of that. And then elevating the experience as well too that we're providing to our customers. We're very hands-on. If they reach out to our customer service center, we're calling them on the phone, we're answering them within 6 hours. If there happens to be mistakes with shipping, we're adding in free gifts, personalized notes. And then if you go to our website, you'll see that the design, the tone, it's just an elevated experience compared to a lot of the competitors in the space. So I can go on about this topic forever. I know we have a certain window of time here, but I just thought that was a really good example to tee up there. So
anybody who substitutes THC for grapes is moving up on the competition. Tell you what, better living through chemistry, right? Are there online platforms that you guys rely on?
Yeah, I mean, I can go in a couple of different directions in this. My head is really focused on media and paid advertising. For those two beverage brands that I mentioned, but then also in conversations with clients. I think the game is definitely changing with a lot of data privacy rules right now. It's harder to track behaviors online, attribution with media dollars, but honestly, Meta, which would be Facebook, Instagram, Google, those are still the go-to platforms to have some level of investment. But I'm a big fan of. There's a lot of programmatic players out there that are becoming big, and then the big conversation right now is TikTok. How to connect with that large audience set and stand out from your competition in TikTok. I see that as definitely a growth area in the near future. But I think it's different for different brands. It's very dependent upon where your audience is engaging with content, but then also transacting with your brand too.
Being that you're marketing, what percentage of revenue do you typically recommend people invest in paid digital media?
Yeah, I was thinking about this last night. I would think about it at a real high level in two stages. If you're an emerging brand that's in the early stages, I would say at least 50% to help establish what your brand values are, what you stand for, and tell the story of why you exist and why your value proposition is better than your competition. I think you definitely need to spend money to do that. There's ways to partner with influencers and organic ways to do that, but I would say upwards of 50% to have a balance of brand awareness and lower funnel media to actually drive sales. But I believe over time, as you build up a customer base, you establish your brand, you have brand equity. I think over time you want to phase that down to 20 to 25%. Obviously these are ballparks. It's going to be different for different brands and different industries, but I think about it as those kind of two phases where there's different investment levels that brands need to invest in. So,
Hey, let me get more clarity on that because it's shocking. 50% and 20. You're talking about revenue of the whole company or just marketing budget percentage?
oh yeah, marketing budget percentage. Yeah, yeah, that's what I'd say.
I'm glad I asked. Some people were fainting.
it's
50% spend on paid digital media. Hey,
it's interesting. I mean, actually, it could be a percentage of revenue for the whole company. I've actually been approached or recruited for some emerging brands sometimes when they take in investment, investors want to see just huge acceleration in growth and less of a concern with profitability. Granted, that's probably not the case today because of rising interest rates and the different market dynamics, but I've seen some scenarios where they've actually investors have actually dictated that they want brands to spend 50% of total revenue just to accelerate growth to show a track record. So it's amazing what you'll see. So
yeah, sometimes you got to get market share before you start getting the profits. I understand that. Would it be interesting if you had an opportunity to save 90% on your paid digital spends for a company?
yeah, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? Yeah.
Would it be interesting from a perspective of a buyer, a marketing buyer, to save up to 90% on the cost of paid digital media?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's what honestly, that's the selling proposition. A lot of media buying focused agencies and consulting companies have when they approach brands that they can be more efficient and honestly there's always ways to become more efficient. It just takes a lot of time to figure out what are those levers to pull. How do you diversify your channel mix, creative mix, audience strategies. So yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the products that we have available. That's why I asked that leading question. Somebody would ask the question of, yes, I think I could save 90% and like it. You can save 90% or you can spend 100% more and get twice or 3 times, 10 times the result.
Yeah.
Let me ask you today, shifting into you personally, what are you grateful for today?
I am grateful. I actually have a birthday coming up next week. I'm in my early 40s, but I'm grateful that I still feel healthy. I still do endurance sports. I'm going to be doing a triathlon end of September. I think, more than anything, I'm grateful that I've gotten to a spot in my career where it's kind of twofold. I still see tons of growth trajectory with my career and in growing
Mhm.
MOJO. I'm excited about the opportunity to build this e-commerce growth marketing practice. It's a new challenge for me. I've mostly worked in corporate America. I've relied on base salaries, but this is really a new opportunity. But I think on the flip side too, I'm grateful to be in a spot where I can, do interviews like this and also engage with younger people and provide guidance and advice and coaching. I do get a lot of highs on that, on helping people out, seeing them with their acceleration in their careers as well too. So yeah.
Well, congratulations on a birthday in your 40s. Back in the day, I started over again on my second uh, dental practice. I've been 47 years of practicing dentistry, and I started over at age 48 on my second practice, and recently sold that, and I'm on my third startup now. So hey, there's always room for more.
Man, that's great to hear. It's funny you say that. So I finished business school when I was 29, and there was just so much pressure to get to the optimal career state by our mid 30s. But as I'm learning, I consider myself a late bloomer. I think I probably had a slow start, but that's great to hear. At 48 is when you started a second career. I don't know, who knows? Maybe I'll have a third career when I'm 48 too. So.
Yeah. Well, the first two careers were both in dentistry, and this third one is in IT. And, they say your 50 to 60 is your most productive age in years, but I'm going to prove them wrong and make it the 70s being the most productive. What about advice you'd give if you look back at your 20-year-old self? What would you say to yourself?
I would say, I think the biggest, this is a tough one for me because this is a little bit counter to what I highlighted earlier about seeking out new challenges, continuous learning, and never getting comfortable. I think to my 20-year-old self, I still would have told myself to pursue those traits and those things, but I think having a bigger focus on doing so. This is speaking on a professional lens, like focusing on your current job, your current responsibilities, and ensuring you were doing a great job of what you were responsible for, as opposed to seeking out, how you can grow, new opportunities. I think I always had my eye out for what the next move was in my 20s and even my 30s, but I didn't have a good enough balance of making sure I was doing a great job with, with what I was responsible for. Because what I learned over the years is to get, especially in corporate America, to get considered for promotions and expanded roles, you have to prove that you're reliable with your current scope of work or responsibilities.
So I hear you real well. You got to be a team player who's looking out for the company more than looking out for yourself. You got to be focused on doing what's called excellence in your current position if you want to go to a higher position and get longevity at a particular company. Otherwise, they'll see through what you're doing and they'll put you in the back burner and say, this person's not a grower. They're just taking space up. And as soon as we get a grower in our scope, we'll replace them.
Yeah. No, that is so true. And I've heard that anecdotally, when I was actively interviewing for jobs before I joined MOJO. Either with myself or others, like a lot of times companies will pass on people if they would ask too many questions or show too much interest about how they could expand their role outside of what they were hiring for. So yeah.
Yeah, there is a danger to having side hustles and other jobs outside. If people understand that you've got other avenues of income and interest, they really do realize. So that's a danger to corporate escalation up. You almost have to be a solopreneur if you want to be successful in side hustles.
Yeah. And that's something that I've struggled with, and honestly, that's why I pursued this current path, because I'm within the MOJO umbrella, but I'm on point for business development, and so which naturally fits my personality and my interest as well too. So.
Do you have a particular living mentor that has an impact on you?
Yeah, I this is my father. So unfortunately, my father was my biggest mentor. We went to the same undergraduate. We both went to Notre Dame. I got to see Tim Brown play in 1987 when I was 7 years old, and so ever since then, I was dead set on wanting to go to the University of Notre Dame. But he pursued a career in marketing, healthcare. He started his own business, and it's funny. I feel like I had a different trajectory. I have more of a focus on digital marketing and whatnot. But around the same age, now I'm making this transition to running my own practice, business development. And then just the way that he treated people, he was very respectful, very straightforward and blunt with people, but also very, very respectful. I'm glad you asked me this, because I feel like I need to put some time into finding a new mentor, since he passed away about 8 years ago right now. So, I will say that the founder of our company, Darnell Smith, I do look up to him to some extent for mentorship. We've had conversations multiple times about my career path, for the past 8 years or so. And now it's come to fruition with joining MOJO. But I'll admit I need to do a better job of being more engaged with, more experienced people to help guide me. So,
hey, I'm sure there's a lot of candidates out there who are like to be mentors to people, but I've interviewed a lot of people on Influencers Podcast who'd be great mentors. If you go back, you might find some out in your area that I've interviewed.
I need to look at your archives, and then yeah.
Why is being impactful important to you yourself now?
Yeah, I think I just honestly, back to the mentor question. I want to be remembered, not just for somebody that did a good job, could drive revenue for a company, but I want to be remembered as somebody that people enjoyed being around, was funny, I always have a big desire to be, a diverse and well-rounded individual when I interact with people. And I just think those connections and those experiences have a lasting memory on people, as opposed to just transactional relationships. And so that's part of what drives me with, my personal development and my personal growth. So
how can we support you and MOJO?
Yeah, no, I love this. Get to give my shameless plug for what I'm doing. I've touched on this a lot throughout the show, but just a summary. We're really, I think the strong suit, we can bring a lot of creative expertise, anything with digital, whether it's your website, digital media, media investment, analytics. And then anything e-commerce related and strategic advisory for C-suite. Anybody, even if you just want to have an initial consult, we can take a look at your business, provide some initial observations, recommendations. My personal email is phil@mojopsg.com as a way to get in contact with me, to have an initial conversation. The other thing I'll just touch on quickly, again, the two non-alcoholic beverage brands that we also own. If for myself personally, I got into this because of dry January, which is becoming a big trend where people abstain from alcohol for the entire month of January. But either for that time period or just if you're trying to find alcohol alternatives. Bear, it's enjoybear.com. And then Moon is enjoymxxn.com. Check out our websites. We have great products, great spirits to make your classic favorite drinks, martinis, margaritas, old fashions. So definitely check us out and support us there too.
Sounds like a winner. Everybody should contact you and check out those products. And if they need marketing and growth, well, MOJO is the answer. What would you say about your experience on our program today, Phil?
I think, I love this. Dr. Bill, we were talking earlier. I used to be a podcast host myself. That was about a year ago. And I mean, very professional. I don't know if the audience will see this, but there's prompts for each of the questions, which I think is definitely a thing I should have done with my guests when I was on shows in the past. But no, thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I like also how you changed up the flow of questions to keep me on my toes here a little bit too. So I appreciate that, because I was able to realize what I was speaking on, of what motivates me and what my strengths are. So.
Excellent. Thank you. Let me give you the final word before I come back and address our audience and close out the show.
Yeah, again, appreciate this opportunity. For the audience, I'm open to, whether you want to have conversations about e-commerce, marketing, maybe if you want to partner on a project, or even if you want to learn more about non-alcoholic spirits and what I've observed in that place, feel free to reach out. And and again, Dr. Bill, thank you for the opportunity here.
All right, there you have it. Our friend Phil from the head of e-commerce and growth marketing at MOJO, Phil Irvin. So from Atlanta, Georgia to what? San Francisco?
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Yeah. Yep.
We've had a fine day with two West Coast people, San Francisco and Los Angeles. So thank you for all being here. I want to thank the audience for tuning in. And I want to make everybody aware that they can capture freedom with the QR code that's above me. That QR code actually goes to my business card. And Phil, I found OVU and I put my business card digital so people can go there and find out, all about me. What I like about it is that I get to change it anytime I want to, add, subtract. It's not static. So if you're marketing, to have a digital business card is magnificent. drbillwilliams.tv is where we have all our podcasts. And if you're looking for a mentor, you can look at 60 different podcasts, find somebody that you resonate with. And we've asked them all the questions that let you know their personality, let you know their business, let you know their focus. And you might find somebody you like. You'll also find the link to my AI technology business, where I have an entry portal for free for everybody who goes in to Dr. Bill W. on our URL there. So I want to invite everybody who's interested in AI technology to be used in your business or personally for communication. We've got the best. And if you're a marketer and you want to track your success, we've got the best analytics for websites at OTracker. It's very inexpensive compared to most of the tracking devices and systems out there. So take advantage of that. And there's one last thing I'll mention is today we're unveiling a world-changing video conferencing platform called OConnect to the public today for the first time. It happens in just 30 minutes from now. So I've timed our program today to allow those who are listening, and there's a lot of people around. We are in 200 countries, Phil, and people listen from all over the world to this podcast. And because I know 30 minutes from now, we're going to release this product to the world, OConnect, it's going to change the way people communicate online. Why is that? Well, marketers will be glad to know we have the plan to have simultaneous speech-to-speech translation of all languages, 50 languages. Now, I'll be talking in English, and you could hear me in Russian, Chinese, Spanish, and English all at the same time. You can market yourself to here and, a higher level, right? If you could speak to all the people at one time, eliminating the translation issue. Not only do we have speech to speech, we have speech to text and text to speech. You can have the thing printed out in front of you. So we have a lot of things to offer. This is a one-stop shop for most of the things you need to run a business. Communication, staff management, graphics, video. Be a great help to any marketing company to be aligned with what we're doing. Can also be a reseller. That ought to take up a couple of ears, people listening. You could be a reseller of what we have and move it into other places. So, Phil, don't let that get lost on what you can do to help your company, MOJO, help your clients also. The future's bright.
Definitely.
And for those who are listening, there's one last thing if you want to see the big reveal from Dubai at 12:30, we're actually going to go live to the world on YouTube with this URL. So people can copy that down if they want to do a screenshot, or it might be, interesting to see how we're going to light up the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building, with a laser light show featuring our new product, OConnect. And by the way, we own the top floor of the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world. So we have a big footprint in Dubai, so that's why we're bringing it to you from Dubai. So that's it for the Influencers Podcast today. We enjoyed having you, Phil, on this show. Thanks for sticking around and hanging out with us for this last 45, 50 minutes. It's been fun.
No, thanks again. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I gotta check out all these products you're promoting here too. For sure.
Yeah, it's a wonderful event that we're fixing to have, and encourage everybody listening live now to just copy that down before we close the show, so that you can go live right to the Burj Khalifa and see the show. It's going to be a music and light show extravaganza, and you will be impressed. Thanks again. See all you friends on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter who are following us live. We'll see you at the Burj Khalifa in just 30 minutes. Take care. Thanks, Phil.
Yeah. Take care, everybody.